Alright, so we're back with the third installment. Well, part 3 of the floor. And as you can see, there's a crack there, and I was still kind of contemplating on whether to put back seats in or not. But today I decided that I'm going to eliminate them because I would have to fabricate like a whole, I'd have to frame all that out and cut that out and frame it out. And instead, I'm just going to eliminate that cross beam, or whatever you want to call it, that section that's still hanging on by a thread. And I'm just going to box it in and weld it together and eliminate it. But there's a couple other things I need to do first. Well, first off, I need to cut angles into this piece to make it match the sides so that everything is, the same height and everything. Speaking, kindergarten terms. But yeah, I don't have a chop saw or a miter saw for cutting metal, so I just use a wire wheel for everything, which this doesn't need to be perfect. It's as long as it's within a 1/16 of an inch, I can still burn it in. But the worst part of all this, and I don't show it, but the worst part of this whole situation is having to grind off all that old, bed liner, and it was really horrible to cut all that out. And it was pouring out today, and it was cold, so I was trying to work with the garage doors shut, or the one garage door shut, but it was the worst day to do that because it was just ridiculous as far as smoke and inside of the car. So I was trying to work with my shirt over my nose a lot of the time, but it is what it is. I mean, it's all part of it, but I didn't show that part anyway, so this is just me burning in the center bracket, support, beam, whatever you want to call it. And I figured I'd go right off of that because I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I have to put a firewall up, a rear firewall, because my fuel cell and my battery are going to be in the trunk, and if anyone ever hits me from behind or anything like that, I don't want to blow myself up. So at least maybe I'll have a second to jump out of the car if I have a rear firewall. It's just for safety, obviously, but and I'm obviously not doing rear seats, so at least I got that decision out of the way, because I was just kind of stuck on that, and I'm kind of bummed about it. I'm not. I don't know. I don't really know how to think about it. I didn't really care whether I had them or not, but I'm still kind of stuck in my old ways where when I originally bought this car, I didn't want it to be a race car. Like, I didn't want it to look like it was just all metal inside. I wanted it to be a car, like a complete car from 1948, and look like a 1948, not just from the outside, but the further I go with this, the more it's turning into a straight rat rod, style race car, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to look original inside, and it's not, and that kind of bums me out in a way, because I'm all about originality, and I was pretty excited to make this, to take my kids for a ride in this possibly, but that's not looking like it's ever going to be the situation, which that's okay, because I have other cars to do that in. But yeah, I'm not going too wild with this. That adds a lot of structure, just that right there. And then I drove I drilled some holes down in through there for the trunk, because while I can still get to this area, I've been planning on doing this. I'm just kind of wrapping up some loose ends here before I wrap up this part of the build. Drilled some holes through that to weld through, and I don't get too deep into this situation. I show bits and pieces of it, but Um, yeah, I mean, I couldn't get washers up onto that because of the angle they were at, but they're in there super solid, and it just added a ton of structure to the trunk, and I'm hoping that it keeps the rattle down, by having these bolts going across there. And also, before I put the firewall up, I plan on closing that gap between the rear, where the rear seats used to be, and the trunk sheet metal. I'm gonna weld that in. I'm gonna cut strips of steel and burn that in. I'll have to I'll have to grind that bed liner back off the trunk again in that area, but oh well. Um, I jump ahead of myself because this wasn't planned. I wasn't planning on doing it this way. So that's all part of it. You never really know what you're going to do. Like, I made this split decision this morning. I didn't know I was going to do it this way. I just came out here and I looked at what I had laying around, and I was like, okay, I have that piece of scrap metal. I pushed down. I was going to cut pieces out for those valleys to put the rear seat in, and I pushed down on that center, support, and it just like cracked. So I was like, well, that's obviously not going to work, and I just cut it out. And so here we are. So you can't fully plan this stuff. Had I tried to plan this, I think I've said this before, I would have changed a million things already. Like, there's no way that you can plan every single detail of your car from when you first get it. Like, you can try, you can have a general idea, but like, it's not going to work out that way. I don't care who you are, it just doesn't. And actually, it's funner to make it up as you go anyway. It's less stressful because then you're not like held to a certain, uh, expectation, I guess. Like, you can just kind of make it up as you go, and it's fun. But I had to kind of shape this, metal. You can't really see from this angle, but it's up about. You can see like the gap on the bottom of the sheet metal. It drops down a tad bit, so I just start from the left side, and then I hammer the crap out of it and bend it down to get it tight to the bottom of the floor. I don't show that part, but I do show, the finished product here in a few moments. But this is really hard to do, holding it down with one hand. I couldn't find my crowbar that I keep on my shoulder, or else it would have been a lot easier. But yeah, I was trying to hold it down, and I was shaky, and I just wanted to get it done. It stunk so bad in there. You can see I have my shirt over my face. It was just so that it smelled really bad. There was like seam, and I mean, I cleaned it up the best I could with a flap disc and a grinder wheel, but it is what it is, man. There's always leftover paint, and there's old seam sealer left over on there. There's like rubber. It's gonna smoke. There's gonna be little fires. It is what it is. But go figure, it just wasn't on the most breathable day outside either, so I had like no ventilation in there, and I did open the garage doors, but it's still like, I don't know, it was very still out, so I just had to suck it up. I'm just happy to get it done. But after breathing this stuff in for a while, like, I end up getting a migraine, and then I have a headache half the day, and it's just, pretty miserable, so big whiner. But no, it wasn't that bad. I didn't really do too much. As you'll see in this video, it wasn't the craziest day I've ever had out here. It was just wrapping this up so that I can move on to the next step, which I'm hoping, and then so there it is. And you can see it's bent down along the bottom. There's no gap. But I'm really hoping in the next episode, I'm going to bring the Balmer seats back down. I'm going to try to, fabricate something to mount the seats. It's another thing. There's that hole there, so I wanted to, patch some stuff up. And lucky me, I ran out of gas, as I was doing this piece. I literally ran out of gas during this patch here, so that ended up working out. And I didn't have anything else to really weld for today. But, well, the day I filmed this anyway, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I still haven't grinded it down. I probably won't film that, but yeah, I gotta grind it down. I gotta add 1 or 2 more, self tappers in there, and then yeah, I should be pretty good for the floor. Should be done then. Still didn't figure out what to do with that tunnel there. That's gonna be probably in a later video. I don't know yet. I don't know what I'm gonna use for it, because they don't sell metal that's that wide unless I get a giant piece, and I don't really want to buy a giant piece just to do that section. So maybe if I find a street sign outside or something that I can use for that, we'll see. But it's not an emergency yet anyway. But I'll get the seats figured out, and we'll move on to the next step. But thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.